and Google Gmail. And so it was pretty intense, but you can see some topics here. Chris James, our data specialist, took a project on herself last spring where she has set up Aspen so that teachers can go in and put in their requests paperless for an absence. It is a 1-minute process. My team, after we were trained, while we were being trained, was submitting their absence requests for personal days and vacation days. And so what is exciting about it is when they go in, they see their accruals. So, and if they go beyond their personal day use allocation, it will not allow them to use it.
Great.
And it all escalates to their supervisor. So Chris was teaching the administrative assistants on that. So there was the administrative assistants for 3 days. I think it was 2 hours a day. There was also some work on our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging led by Dr. Bacon, which was 3 days last week, full days. And then this week, we kicked off our leadership retreat with all the principals, assistant principals, and central office staff, where I took them to an escape room, breakout escape in Woburn, and we did 3 different escape rooms. Well, they broke up into groups. I was observing how they were interacting because I know the personalities, and I wanted to see who was taking over. One was a casino room, one was the museum heist room, and one was do not disturb about a murder. And you could ask for hints. I've never done one personally, so it was interesting to see that only one group passed within the hour because they were not too prideful to ask for hints. The others were trying to get out of there, but a lot of fun. We enjoyed a cookout at my home, and then we were in from 8 to 3 the last 3 days with a variety of sessions. Darren Klein did a training on student discipline and staff discipline. Chris James taught us Aspen. Carrie O'Donnell gave us 3 Google trainings, 1 each day for an hour. Jean led some curriculum and instruction work, family engagement work, and so it was intense. It was a lot harder than being in my office answering emails and writing papers for the last 3 days. So I'm really grateful to our team. As I said to them this morning, we have a lot of people moving into new positions, and to be fully present doing the work for the last week I was really grateful because nobody was on their phone, nobody was taking phone calls. Of course, they were answering emails while they're eating their lunch in between, but the team was fully present and gave it their all, and now we'll hit the ground running. So, and we did invite the union leadership in, had some great conversations, solved some great problems. It builds that trust between administrators and the union, and it was a really great week. So on that note, anybody have any other questions? Because then I'll go into some other updates that I didn't put in writing.
Superintendent, not a question, but I do want to give you kudos on this. I think to take the time to make sure that everybody on your team is up to speed, particularly the crucial administrative assistance is terrific. I also really appreciate how you build a team that is that gets along personally as well as professionally. And I think that speaks volumes to what you have been able to accomplish over the last few years. And this is just another example of it. So we just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Yeah, Monday's a fun day, and then we dive into the work on Tuesdays. It's like, oh my gosh, a whole day of trainings and sessions. So what isn't written down, but I do want to share with you, in addition to the joint, PTO event at the elementary level, the elementary principals, although they sent them out on different days, have scheduled visits for families to Blaney and Hadley. And I do know that Ms. Bebchek, prior to her leaving, had a Popsicles in the Park. And I know that Mr. Knowles is taking over, and he will be allowing visiting as well. So there are a couple of times scheduled for Blaney visits for families, as well as Hadley visits for the Hadley school students, and meet and greets for Ms. Sanborn. In addition to that, I'm probably putting this out there prematurely, but what we have decided and will be communicated to families is that the first 3 days for kindergarten We likely will start those kindergartners at 8:30, a little bit later, so that parents can walk their students in to the schools, all 3 elementary schools, and on all of those days, and become acclimated with the school and the routines. And one of them, I think all schools will be having a boo-hoo breakfast after, where the parents will be crying. So we're hoping the students aren't crying, we're hoping the parents aren't crying, but a boo-hoo breakfast, it was one of the things that came across my desk today. So the 3 principals are working closely on that. In addition, we have I have a traffic meeting with the town agencies on Monday, because we have to, all of the signage and painting work for the traffic changes are occurring beginning next week. The traffic pattern change is anticipated to begin on August 19th. Therefore, we need the town to communicate to every neighbor and everyone in town, be it robocall, be it flyers, that these changes are occurring and what the changes are. So Max Casper, our Director of Facilities, and myself have a meeting with all of the town agencies involved, and Chief Casada, along with the new traffic officer, John Lloyd, and our SRO, Brian Wilson, and they've already started a communication to the town, and it is really on the town agencies to get this communication out. We potentially will be talking to Gino Crester about the big sign and putting that out there, but we do want to get it out early next week that August 19th these changes are going to begin. In addition to that, we have an internal meeting, traffic meeting. I wouldn't say traffic. I'm equating drop-off and pickup with traffic, but a drop-off and pickup meeting, a third drop-off and pickup meeting with Mrs. Huntley, Ms. Sanborn, again, Officer Lloyd, Officer Wilson, Max Casper, and we'll be reviewing the bodies that will be present during drop-off and pickup. Today, I approved a big banner about safety and traffic that the police department is having made, along with stickers that will be given out to students about, proper slowing down and really their commitment to keeping everyone safe. So there is a lot going on and going into the opening of the school year, particularly in that neighborhood. We also have a joint PTO Zoom meeting next Wednesday evening, because our PTOs have been elementary PTOs, all of the PTOs are generous, but elementary PTOs have been very vocal about supporting us in any way they can. And one of the things that we want to identify is a practice day with traffic, and we need PTO volunteers and cars to drive our traffic in terms of practice drop-off and pickup, to poke any holes in our plan so that we can probably either course correct a little bit before it occurs, and also help us disseminate information. So they have been very communicative, very involved, very willing to help us in any way possible. So we will be meeting with them next Wednesday evening, as I said, via Zoom. I think that's it.
Oh my God, it's so much. It's so awesome that all this is happening, and it's so coordinated, and it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. I will say, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, I had 2 great experiences in 1 week, but I think, Suzanne, you can back me on this. It's been such a treadmill, this whole process, for so many months, and the move from Stanley, I didn't give myself permission to feel. I was about task-oriented and getting those boxes done and getting things labeled and getting everything color-coded and what was being purged and how many dumpsters we were going to use. That last week, I think it was, I said, I need to go over and walk through Stanley School myself. And I took a walk through with a couple of custodians. I got pretty emotional. It was the first time I actually allowed myself to feel the 8 years that I was principal in that building, all of the students that went through there, and how sad it was. Like selling my parents' house, like, this is it. We're not going to be walking these halls again. So that was an experience. And then the same day or the day after, I poked my head over I took a walk through Blaney, and it was bright, and it was clean, and the floors are shiny, and the hardwood floors have been polished. And I do know that we were targeting the 15th to allow the teachers to go set up their rooms, but given the cooler weather this week, I do know that several teachers have already been at Blaney this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and tomorrow, and setting up their classrooms. So everything is happening. It's just that keyword of flexibility for the next 2 years is going to have to be prominent in everything we do. Not everything's going to be perfect. We're all going to have to do things a little bit differently, but there is a pot of gold at the end of those 2 years, and that's that new elementary school, and it's super exciting. So.
We have a quick question
Sure.
on behalf of like the high school. A lot of people have been wondering where Blaney is.
Sure. So
I feel like no one knows where that is.
It's a little bit hidden. So if you are going down Reddington to Hadley School, and Hadley will be on your right, there's a little street called Blaney Street on your left, and it is if you go 2 doors down, there is an older, it's actually in very good condition, school that was used as a Catholic school many, many years ago. So it's already a school building.
Oh, okay.
And it has great classroom spaces and beautiful windows. And if you get the right room over there, you actually have an ocean view.
You get the ocean view.
Yeah. So
okay, so Blaney is there.
Across from the Hadley Playground, right?
Okay, perfect. And then, so we were also wondering that in some way, shape, or form, not to be selfish, does affect the crazy high school drivers.
yes, yep.
So we were kind of wondering, how is that going to work on our end? Because obviously, I know times have been adjusted, the 10, 15, 5-minute difference, but, we're high school. We're
Well,
gonna be
you bring up
late.
a really incredible point that
Just-
on top of communicating to the town these changes, we probably should do an email to the driving age students
Definitely
at
the high school
Yes.
a high school geared email would be great, just because I know a lot of the high schoolers have no idea, one, that Blanley
Our
is
daughter,
a
right.
thing,
Right.
or that, two, where it is and how it's going to affect us, especially because they're younger kids. You don't want us
Probably every
crossing paths. I mean, I'm going
Right.
to admit I'm not the
No,
best
all
driver on the planet. I've only been doing it for a
that-
year, so I think
You've
that's
already
a
made it,
huge-
you could, that word impact.
Already made an impact.
You've already made an impact.
Look at us, Jesse. We're
And,
killing it.
So we will definitely, whatever communication the town comes out with, we will make sure we mass email that to the high school students.
Perfect.
Jesse?
I also just want to put an emphasis, because I live in Nahant, on
Oh, yeah.
commuting from Nahant, if there are going to be any changes with that, because I know where Blaney is.
Yep. No, it shouldn't
Look at
impact.
you knowing where the school is.
It shouldn't impact Nahant students at all, but that's
Alright.
another valid point that, we get, as I can speak for myself, I get so focused on certain things that I need you to poke holes and say, have you thought of this, have you thought of that? So just this alone, sending a high school email with that same communication, we can be sure to do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great.
I have some questions for you.
Fire away.
He lives there.
I live on Blaney.
Oh, okay.
So-
See, maybe I'm just clueless. I had no idea where it was. I thought it was in
Johnny,
Lynn.
I didn't know
They can
until-
bring bagels and cream cheese for everybody on that first day.
I know.
Someone said it was in Lynn, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Why are the kids going all the way to Lynn?
No,
So I
see, the
was-
challenge is that Hadley School and Blaney School are so close together.
Yes.
And normally, our elementary schools are spread out.
Right.
So this is what the big challenge is.
Got
So
it.
go right ahead, John.
So I heard you mention practice day, which makes sense. So maybe we can add it to the list of emails that are going out. Maybe whenever that day is decided, give the neighbors a heads up so we're not like,
What's
Yeah.
going on?
The
we're not, like
400
backing out
cars,
into
yeah.
your practice day or something.
Okay,
Like
yep.
Actually, she probably should be, to see how that looks.
that. Yeah, call the police, see what happens, right? And so practice day,
Actually.
I was just curious, in your discussions that you were mentioning, these various meetings, will there be an extra presence the first few days of school with?
Yes.
Just, the police helping with
Not
traffic?
just the
or-
first few days, we're looking at the first few weeks. There is going to be a lot of, the police department has committed, I had lunch with the police chief a couple weeks back, and his commitment to putting as many bodies as he can there for us, those first few weeks is gonna happen.
And let's say after the first few weeks,
And it would be
if we need
extended.
to go longer, yeah, is that an open?
We're starting with
possibility?
first few weeks being hopeful, but what I'm hearing is a commitment to help us through this and help the town, more importantly, through it, not just the school department.
It's like we've said to you, the propensity to backslide
I know.
is very real, so
Yeah.
we just want to make sure. And you mentioned a traffic officer, and I'm sorry, I must have missed.
Yeah, I think we
Can
all
you tell
haven't
us
heard
about
about it
that?
yet. No, I have only heard that Officer Lloyd introduced himself to me via email, that there will be a traffic officer. He is being appointed. It hasn't been official yet, but he wants to jump on board even before his official appointment and work alongside Officer Wilson with us. And so he's going to be part of the conversations beginning Monday. And that's just, to me, another demonstration of the partnership we have with the police department in helping us through this.
That's great. That's really a great thing. That's gonna be, as you said, there's gonna be some great ups and some challenging mornings over there.
Got one more for you. So, one of the other questions was on teacher parking.
I'm still waiting for the final answer from our town administrator. I have sent a few emails, and he's working as hard as he can on it, and I'm waiting to get confirmation on that.
Okay, because I've heard from more than a few neighbors, like, are they gonna be able to park across the street? I don't know, I think we're just worried about the, not Blaney Street, but just the surrounding neighborhood.
I'm
getting
worried
overrun.
too, which is, I know he's working as hard as he can, and he's hoping to get me a definitive answer as soon as he
Okay,
can. Yeah.
getting close.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And I do have one more thing regarding the wonderful.
Superintendent, before we move on from the traffic, I did watch the select board meeting the other night and appreciate that you were there to answer questions. I'm sure that when you got all of your degrees, and you have many, traffic patterns is something that you did not study. So I appreciate your role in this, and I think as we talk about small town and what resources are, I would imagine that in other districts, when we're building new schools, that this is not something that the superintendent is necessarily.
Well, remember, I was
so-
facilities director for many years too.
I do. So you do know that area well. So my question is about Officer Lloyd. And do you know, at the select board meeting, when the chief was there, he introduced a few people on his team. Do you know if Officer Lloyd is in addition to, it was Officer Wilson?
I think Officer Hennessy was there as well.
Yeah, it was Hennessy, and there was one, and Officer Cable.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know, are they still gonna be
Yes.
as involved? Okay, good.
Yes, Officer Cable is involved as well, and actually, you reminded me, Officer Cable will be at the joint PTO meeting on Wednesday evening, and I probably need to let him know about the Monday and Tuesday meetings and see if he's available. What I'm fine, I mean, we can't pull the entire police department for these meetings, but I do know that they have great communication when they go back, and they're keeping everyone in the loop.
Great.
So, just one final item that, Amy, you and I talked about a little bit, but it is a definite, and it is happening, and I was just sharing with Mrs. Wright this as well, that if you drive to middle school and don't see my car in my parking space on certain days this upcoming school year, that is because I'm creating a satellite office here at the high school, and my plan right now is to be here in my office at the high school on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'll be splitting my time between my office at the middle school and my office at the high school for the upcoming school year. I'm looking forward to supporting all of the great things that are happening here at the high school, and doing the same thing that I've done, being present at the middle school for the past 8 years. So we're starting with the Tuesday, Thursday. I may be here other days as well, but we have articulated where my office space will be, and I am reachable. So if anybody calls you and says, I'm out on Tuesdays and Thursdays because my car is not in my parking space at the middle school, you'll know where I am.
I think of all the calls that we have fielded over the years, Pam being absent from the district is not one. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you telling us though, and I'm really glad that that worked out.
Yep. And that concludes my report, and I thank you so much for your time.
All right, so I'm going to turn this over to the Director of Teaching and Learning. Dr. Bacon, you're up.
Thank you. If somebody could promote Peter Franklin from an attendee to a panelist,
I just did.
great. So, Peter, are you here? There you are.
Oh,
you hear us?
That's so exciting.
To unmute myself, and I have to find
Oh, there you are. Okay, great. So I've asked Peter Franklin to join me to talk to you a little bit about the textbook for the AP Language and Composition course that we are asking you to approve the purchase of. So I will turn it over to Peter.
Awesome. Thank you. Superintendent Angelakis, school committee, Dr. Bacon, most importantly, Afia and Jesse. I have to take a moment. Afia, I can't believe that you would self-admit to be not being one of the world's best drivers.
I mean, it's just if you saw the car pull into the driveway last night, you would have totally agreed with me.
I'm astounded. Unless I've put together, it's in your agenda, I have put together a brief slide deck walking through the justification for wanting to upgrade our AP Lang textbook. And I'm happy to share my screen with you. And unless you beg me to go through it slide by slide, I will just cut to the chase. And now my screen is not letting me share it.
You don't have sharing permissions?
It just disappeared on me. So I can, if
I
it's
can share it. I can share it, Peter.
Okay, thank you. My whole toolbar went away. I love teaching online.
Just up and disappeared.
Oh, look how cute it is.
So in starting this process, and Jean, you can jump to the next slide if you like. The current book we have, and Afia and Jesse, you are welcome to jump in and talk about what it's like to carry this book around.
I didn't carry this book around. It got lost so many times.
But you turned it in on time.
It was terrible. It was so bad.
So those are real student voices. This edition was published in 2008. It was updated in 2013. The difficulty with finding a text for AP Lang is that there really, up until now, has not been one that has existed. It's been cobbling together resources, and even in the first AP Lang Institute I went to in 2017, that was one of the first things the instructor said, is that we have a lot of resources, but you'll have to pull them together. As a result, and both Jesse and Afia can attest to this, that I spend a lot of time finding outside material to augment what's in the book, primarily because a lot of the material in the book is quite dated. And in one of the slides coming up, one of the student voices I have is that very difficult to relate when things move so quickly. There was an update to this version in 2018. A few minor things have been tweaked. And you'll notice that there's a link in here to curriculum content and materials rubric, which Jean has designed, that really focuses on inclusion, equity, and diversity, which the language of composition does not have. And so material to fire on those levels had to be brought in from the outside. Next slide, published just a few months ago, is a book called Ideas and Argument, and it is specifically designed for AP Lang. And there's a lot of material in there.
Really exciting.
I had an advanced copy of it back in February and began going through it and got very excited about it. Not only is it geared towards the exam and exam practice, but the voices that are represented, and I think I have some of them on the next slide, the voices that are represented are a very wide range of what's contemporary. And I did have a few students look at this before school was out, and one of the comments was, it will be so nice to break down and analyze material of people I actually know and respect. And that will certainly help with engagement there. And as you can, this is just a sampling of the speakers and writers, authors who are represented in the book. A couple in particular, that Chimamanda Adichie is a wonderful African author, and she has a piece in the book entitled The Danger of a Single Narrative. And she also has a wonderful TED Talk with the same name. So this article, this essay is actually her TED Talk. So we'll be able to not only read and analyze, but we'll also be able to listen and catch the tone from the voice and talk about how does the tone and voice get represented in the actual material itself. Next slide, I do have some student voices that were gleaned from a few students who responded from an early summer email, and basically they felt that the LOC, we call it language and composition, was outdated, and both Afia and Jesse can attest to the fact that it's a great doorstop. It's 1,200 pages, and while the books are in great condition because both Mr. Kohut, who taught Lang before I did, and myself have maintained a tight rein on making sure that every book that goes out comes back in. And in the 4 years that I've been teaching Lang, only one book came back in not very good condition. It was subject to an exploding water bottle in somebody's backpack. The rest of them, and both Jesse and Afia will note that they all get covered, they stay covered, and they get turned in pristine condition. However, they're very outdated at this point. So we have an opportunity to upgrade. In the last few weeks, I've been going through the new book. I'm about halfway through reading it and annotating it and revising lesson plans, and it's outstanding. And if it wasn't outstanding, I wouldn't be advocating to get a new book. But in this course in particular, because it applies to so many elements of life in high school and post-high school, I think it's very important to have something that is relevant and that students can relate to, and that we would actually use the vast majority of what's in there. I'm going to be struggling with trying to incorporate much of the material just in terms of the fact that there's so much in there, and of course we only have so much time. And student voices, the first one, students feel that it's outdated. Jesse, Afia, if you have anything to add, putting you on the spot here, you're welcome to chime in.
I'll chime in
Okay.
after.
Yeah, I agree that those old ones were really outdated. I feel like we didn't really use them as much as I thought we would for how heavy they are. I was the very last person this year to give it back. I feel like we only did maybe 3 or 4 units using it.
I don't even think that.
I know we did
rarely
education, and I know we did the dumbest generation, but I feel like
Sorry.
there's a bug. I feel like being able to sort of know the people that we're reading about, like reading that list of names. I know almost every single person. I'm wearing a Kendrick Lamar shirt right now, ironically, and being able to read something more modern that's not about the evils of 2008 internet, I think, would be more, I guess, beneficial to students because a lot of the topics on the exam itself are really modern.
Yeah, to touch upon that, I think a big way that kind of, the way that the AP tests are going, I only know of the Lang test, obviously, but a big portion of it is they've made it a point to have us write essays and read material that is strictly with the current time. So if I'm reading, I look at it from a student perspective, if I'm reading something from the 1960s, and I'm then, it just doesn't translate over from classroom to test. And then that brings, as a whole, it brings our school scores down. And then, then you've got that whole area to cover as well. And then also just from a perspective of, obviously the book, no matter if it's brand new or it's the older version, you're not going to completely use it the whole entire time. But you are given a great resource. It would be a little bit more helpful, I think, just from a student perspective, to use what we were given. Because then also it's less on the teacher to find as much outside material, and then it's also less of like crossing over the two materials. Because it's, crossing over two materials on the same topic is one thing, but crossing over two materials that are from 2 different times is a whole nother thing. And that just makes it very difficult from from someone who's taken the course before. So, yeah.
Thank you, Afia. That was very, very well said. And one of the things, Jesse, do you have anything to add?
No, mainly that I agree. I think it's important to read old things as well as new things, like Caesar, like his Cesar Chavez, his sort of idea on civil disobedience and peaceful protest. I think that was important to sort of examine with other things, but I think it gets to a point where we need to start.
It's not a
thinking
history
more.
class.
Yeah, we
It's
need
not
to
a
start
history
thinking more
class.
modern. We need to start reading more modern things to succeed on the exam, because a lot of what was on it was a lot of modern studies and how to write a synthesis essay using modern sort of excerpts. So it's good to have that sort of understanding.
Well, thank you. And that was, this year was my first year being an AP reader on the exam. And during our pre-reading meetings, an AP is not the best at communicating what's going on, but we did learn that in the past 2 years, primarily as a result of the pandemic, is making the exam more accessible through more contemporary material. And we have an opportunity to do that, and without having to try and guess. We never know what's going to be on the exam, and there is generally a blend of contemporary material and, of course, going back to Thoreau or Twain, there can be that as well. So the challenge is trying to get as much material in there as possible. But did get confirmation that there is a move to make it more accessible for students. And that means having more contemporary material. And that is pretty much it. There's one slide in there about projected cost. Of course, we would love to be able to get approval to do this. I have confirmation that we would like to get 70 copies. I have confirmation from Sue Comparato that there are 68 students who are officially enrolled in Lang. Initially, there were 72 requests, but 4 for scheduled reasons or decided they didn't want to be in the course. So that would give us ample copies plus a teacher copy as well. That comes with that. And I know that Dr. Bacon is going to request that we dispose of some of the language and composition books. I would like to keep a class set of those because there are 2 units in there that are particularly good that are not represented in the new ideas and argument, and both Jesse and Afia mentioned those. One is on education, with a very strong unit, and one on that still works is the dumbest generation that we have a lot of fun with.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I would love to entertain questions, comments, thoughts. Amy?
I've got a question for you. So do you feel obliged to have a textbook? And I ask that because I think this is so dependent on the individual books that you read. Mm-hmm. Are these textbooks dictating what the novels are that you're reading?
No, we don't read novels. AP Lang is 99.9% nonfiction. During the summer, the students do read 2 nonfiction novels.
Okay.
One is The Lemon Tree by Sandy Tolan. The other one is
Uncomfortable
Conversation with an Angry Black Man.
So this isn't like this is unlike AP Lit where you're reading tons of books.
Not at all.
Okay.
AP language is a very writing course. Like, you really learn how to write. So from taking it, we don't usually, I think we read one long novel. I think it was 150 pages, if that. So it's definitely, from our perspective, I personally like having the book with all of the short stories, excerpts, whatever you want to call them, in one place. I sticky note, I post-it note, I annotate right on there. So I like having the book with everything right there. So for me, it's helpful. I know as when we used the book in class, it was definitely something that was heavily used, you know, for like unit wise, like when we had a unit, it was like with me at all times. It was sticky noted and everything. So that's I do personally like the book.
Yeah, I like it too. When I was studying for the exam, I used it a lot for topics that I felt like I needed to go back over. It's a good way to sort of strengthen your writing because AP Lit exams, AP Lang exams are really extensive when it comes to the essays. You have
Right.
3 40-minute essays that should be around 5 paragraphs, give or take, and it really helps with learning the best way to write those and just sort of having it as a resource throughout the year, even when you're not using it in a unit, I think is really important.
For sure.
Amy, so Mr. Franklin, thank you for the presentation. It was really great. And I think anything we can do to aspire our students, especially those taking AP and have visions of taking the AP exam, is great. I mean, the sampling of voices is just outstanding. The question that comes to mind really has nothing to do with what you were talking about, but is 70 enough given the fact that we still are, you know, books can get lost and get wet in a backpack? I mean, would it behoove us to maybe order a few extras?
Like 75.
I am not here to spend any more of your money than I need to. Track record is, again, this year we have more, ostensibly more students than ever. And so in the 230 students that I have seen, again, there's only been one book. And I still have, we've been very lucky. If we had a few more, that would be awesome. But I do have 2 personal copies that in case we have an emergency, then we have copies. But I find that students are very reliable. And
Right.
they take good care of their material when you ask them to. And these are substantial hard copy books. So it's not a Dover Press, $1 paperback that's going to fall apart after a year. They do hold up very well. They do not write in them. They're forbidden to write in them, so they actually do get to take notes like they do in college.
Mr. Franklin, I borrowed one from Dr. Bacon's office, and I did just pass it down the line to the committee members. So they got to take a peek at it.
Oh, good. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
you're excited about the new text.
I'm very excited about it. Even, I guess it was last summer, I've been to 2 week-long AP institutes, and one was last summer, and it was with a professor from the University of Arkansas. We got to talking about books, and we were all experienced AP teachers, and we were all bemoaning the fact that there is just not a single resource or even 2 resources to put together, and everybody was using very different material. This book came out specifically designed for the course, and it's the first one that I know of. So yeah, to quote my students, I'm wicked excited.
I have to say, it's great to know. My only worry is that as I'm reminded of how old I am when I hear a student talking about how a book or writings of Cesar Chavez are the old books, as opposed to I'm looking at these others like Abraham Lincoln or Mark Twain. So it's a good reminder that I'm not sitting in that class, and that it is about engaging people who are much younger than me. So I feel like everything is getting compressed. So in 5 years' time, I hope that these are still the voices of substance, but would imagine that things are going to start to compress more. That it won't be 10 years. So if they're just a question about textbooks and how relevant they are. But it sounds like the 2 students who are with us tonight more than support it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah,
Dr. Bacon, do you want to add anything?
Oh, all right. I don't think
Sorry,
she
go
can see
ahead.
that. So, Amy, I'm sorry. This is John. I just had a quick question for Mr. Franklin. So I think you partially answered it with, you said there really weren't any other, viable candidates out there. Then this one came along that looked like a good fit. Are you getting feedback from, other schools that, they've also adopted this book, for the coming year that, that they also think it's a, it's a good investment and good for the students?
I have actually talked to no one about this book. It was published in February. I really haven't had any contact with anyone over the course of the year, since February, with people who I've been through institutes with. So honestly, John, I haven't had those conversations.
All right, and I did like what you said. Just to note something you pointed out a few minutes ago. You're going to keep a set for the classroom of the old books. I think that's a great plan. Again, just to go back and forth as you need to. I think that makes a lot of sense. So just kudos on that plan as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Bacon, do you want to add anything before we take a vote?
No, just to remind the committee, and this has come up before when I've asked you to vote on text for APs. The current policy of the College Board is that it requires for a course to be designated as an AP course, it has to have a core resource that's been published within the last 10 years. So I'm keeping track of when everything was published. So it was AP Lang's Turn, because their current textbook is published in, I think, Mr. Franklin, was it 2011 or 2012?
The current version is 2013, so we're kind of butting up against that 10-year mark.
Right.
And as Amy pointed out, things are getting very, very condensed. So in 5 years, these books are going to be in excellent condition, but they may be, who knows? I hope the voice is still valid.
Yeah.
Did you get it?
Okay, without any other questions? Anybody? I will entertain a motion to approve the AP Language textbook as presented tonight.
So moved.
Second?
A roll call vote. Suzanne?
Yes?
Karen?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
And I am a yes. It is approved unanimously.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr.
We
Franklin.
appreciate the work you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thank you. Right, Dr. Bacon, the floor is still yours.
Okay, so the second item for you to vote on tonight is declaring a bunch of curriculum-related materials as surplus. I included a spreadsheet there that we've put together. Some of it's I can sort of just go through the tabs. The things that are in the high school list, again, you voted last spring to replace the AP biology texts, or last fall. And so this is the old set of AP biology texts that the department would like to declare surplus and dispose of. And then, as Mr. Franklin just noted, we'd asked you to declare surplus a portion of the copies of the current AP language text. And that leaves him 25 that he's keeping as a classroom set. In the middle school, you approved in the spring the purchase of a new math curriculum called Into Math. And this list on the middle school tab represents the disposal of their current math program that they have for grades 6 through 8. The total value, when I looked it up online, and we don't have exact counts of all these materials, but Danielle Wozni, who's the curriculum specialist for math at the middle school, says that when they originally purchased, they purchased 240 of each of these, because that was the enrollment needs at the time. So this is quite a bundle of material. When I looked them up, the used value ranges from 3 to 5. To estimate the total value, I used $4. So that's what's on the middle school list. At the elementary, because of the space constraints that we're in for the next couple years, both the literacy and math teams were asked to kind of clean out their storage areas and closets, so they all went through those. the literacy team and the math teams, and decided what were things that were obsolete, that they were no longer needed. So the elementary list represents mostly that. And then down the very bottom, there's some things that were added to the list a little bit later that, for example, I got a call from the Hadley secretary as they were trying to clean things out this summer. She and Lori Sanborn had amassed a bunch of stuff that they found around the school and asked me to come and go through it. I didn't have time to figure out the use values of that, but you can see that down around lines 100 to 119 or so. There's a few things. And likewise, there's a few things at the bottom that came out of the Stanley Library, which were never actually cataloged in the library. They just happened to be in that room. So I added them to the list as well. And then the final tab, which I'm just presenting to you, but it didn't have a lot to do with the process of declaring these surplus. Because the libraries are not being full libraries this coming year, the elementary digital learning and libraries teacher was asked to go through those libraries, and she directed a team of other people to do that, to pull volumes that were either really outdated, published a long time ago, or not in very good condition. So the ones from Hadley and Clark, I got in a format where I could put them in here, so you can just scroll down the list. The ones that were from Stanley, there's a link at the top. The person who did Stanley generated it in another format, which is a PDF document, so I can't, we can't scroll with them so easily. But between the three schools, about 6,300 books have been declared, or the folks are asking us to declare surplus for the libraries. All the three schools still have small collections that they've kept for use, and then collections, other parts of the collection that they've stored to be used in the new school when it's available. So we are asking for your vote to declare this surplus, and then I will work with the Director of Finance to decide how to best dispose of these materials.
Dr. Bacon, I've got a question for you, particularly as it relates to the elementary school books. Is there ever any discussion about donating them to other communities, or are we better served selling them?
What's happened, we had quite a bit of stuff that we disposed of in the past, and we generally, the Director of Finance feels that trying to sell them is more trouble than it's worth. So what we've done is we work with an organization which we donate them to, basically, and we box them up, and then they come and pick them up, and then they, use them. Because we tried when we got the new math curriculum in elementary last year, I tried to sort of sell both math and focus stuff, which had been piloted, which other districts in the area are using. So I contacted some of them, and then we tried to interest some of the textbook resellers in all our Envision materials. It's just it's not easy to do. Yeah. So the Director of Finance felt that the amount of time it would take to put everything on eBay, try to sell it, and then manage the sales just wasn't worth it. So we ended up donating everything.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at those elementary school level books. So when we're looking at the middle school books, for example, these math programs, so we've got about $22,000. By declaring it surplus, this is not. This is just a value. It's not money that we're going to recoup. Unless
in working with the Director of Finance, we decide that we are going to. I mean, she also put some stuff out on her listserv. We could say we have a complete set of Connected Math Program, 3rd edition. Does anybody want to, make an offer? So we can try, but may or may not recoup anything from these. So the surplus, I just put the value in to give you a sense of the value of the materials, and that's something the Director of Finance had asked me to do. So for the most part, there's some value in there, not for those library books, because that was just, overwhelming. We couldn't possibly look up.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Titles.
Yeah, that's a lot of bargains for Francis.
Right, yeah,
looking at the titles.
yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions?
No, it's crazy.
No.
I will say, Dr. Bacon, 10 years of doing this, that you are consistently working to get rid of older stuff. So having donated some time last year for me at Hadley and seeing stacks and stacks of old readers, it's exciting to think about these things not just hanging around, taking up space. So thank you. It's a lot of work.
So hopefully when the time of the new school opens, we'll be in good shape at the elementaries and.
So I will entertain a motion to declare these these curriculum materials as surplus.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote. Glenn?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yep.
And I'm a yes. They are surplus.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I have a couple of things on my list as the chair. Let me just make sure I have it all. This goes back a little while. Superintendent and everybody who worked on it, especially including you, Suzanne. I just wanted to say that closure of Stanley Celebration was exciting, and I got a lot of good feedback from I stood at the door for a while and just talked to people as they came and went. And I think it was a really nice event. So I wanted to thank you on that. I do, Superintendent, I saw something online that we have a second pup at school. Is that true?
Yes, one of my visions when the SRO position became available was I had seen a number of districts where the school resource officer also had a therapy dog. And Officer Wilson has his own dog, Callie, who's 2 years old, and who the district is paying for the initial training. And she is going through the program right now. She spent the day becoming familiar with the scents around the high school yesterday. And so as soon as she becomes fully certified, she will be coming in. She won't be coming in before that when students are in school. But this will be number 2 for this upcoming school year.
It's exciting.
Very exciting.
I think I saw that on Instagram or
Whatever.
someplace.
Where we all get our names.
So I don't think we have much of an audience tonight, but if there is, perhaps in repeats, but also for anybody here, I just wanted to point out that the town has sent out a survey asking all residents to weigh in on how they would like ARPA money spent. I'm getting mixed signals. At the meeting itself, the town administrator made a point to want to elicit feedback from students. However, I'm also hearing that the monies won't be anything school related. So I know that probably falls into a gray area where perhaps some students have projects that they're interested in that are more town related. But I would encourage everybody, including everyone here at this table, to just make sure that you fill out this the survey. It is on the, I think it's on the front page of the town website. I talked to some of you individually over the last month or two, and confess I have not done anything about it, including speaking to the superintendent, but it is time to do the superintendent's review. So we got to get moving on that. You know, we were disrupted obviously because of COVID. but we're back on track, and I think more importantly, the superintendent is, really carrying two roles at this point. So I want to be formalized about how we acknowledge that, but also want to tie that into, the work that was just done with NEASC and, the vision of a student, what that means for our broader district, and what goals we want to set around that for the next looking forward. I feel fortunate that, we have a superintendent now who is incredibly seasoned. So we're not going through a review process like we were, 7, 8, 9 years ago. But I'm going to reach out to Nancy or Maureen, whoever will take my calls, to talk about getting another meeting set up for all of us so that we can do a kickoff and go through that the NASC that rubric and set up sort of an official goals as well as wrap up where we've been over the last 2 years.
Madam Chair, I have a question, and it's one
Sure.
thing that has completely fallen off my radar. I think committee members in the past have found it helpful when I've completed a self-evaluation, highlighting some of the things that may have fallen off all of our radars, and
Yep.
I'm sure I'll forget many, but I will commit to trying to work on that while opening the school year, and try to get you something in some shape or form to just prompt the conversation. I think it's helpful.
Yep.
So if that's something that is reasonable and that doesn't require heavy lifting, I think that is always helpful. However, I want to be, I want to commit to this not being a burdensome process for you, particularly because there is so much to be done. And I want to make sure that probably more important is the looking forward and the goal setting.
Oh, I'm not saying it's going to be a dissertation, perhaps just a bulleted list. If I put a bulleted list together, I think it just
That'd be great.
starts a conversation.
We don't need the evident number.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
book
need the
of
binder
evidence
anymore.
we used to get.
Yeah.
This first couple
We
of
do
years.
not-
Small book.
Yeah.
Note to file, we do not need a binder.
No binders anymore.
No, not
Almost 9 years, so
Not
we're
necessarily.
good.
Good. And then, last but not least, I thought it would make sense for me to bring up the roles for school committee. It is not on our agenda, so I think we can take a vote on it if we should mean to, because it's not fundamental to changing how the district operates. But I have heard from some of you about interest in being the chair for the school committee.
Mrs. O'Connor, it is on the agenda, just so you know, under reorganization.
Oh, look at that, election of chair and vice chair. I told you there were a lot of cobwebs up there. Hard to come back after 2 months. So I'd like to just open this up to just kind of a broad discussion and have our members talk about what they think makes sense, maybe nominate people if they so choose, or nominate themselves. But I'll just reiterate that I think one of the things that we've learned over the years is that a rotation of the chair is really helpful for the broader operation of our group. I think it gives everybody a unique opportunity to see the way that the district is operating, and to get to know the superintendent a little bit differently. So there it is.
As vice chair, for the last, how many years have I been this? 3. And I've never stepped up to be the chair. And I think that I feel obligated to step up because I have held this position for so long, and I think I'm at a point with the school building committee that things are out of my hands a lot with the school building committee, because the contractor will be taking over very soon, and it's just going to be running sort of on track, hopefully. And so I feel like I have the time now to do it, and I know everyone else is sort of struggling with the time commitment, and I also feel like this is the right time for me to finally put my big girl pants on. So something I'm interested in.
All right, so I will also, and I certainly appreciate that, Susan, I did do some looking at my calendar. And I'm actually interested as well to be the chair. At my first go-around, I did go to vice chair. I think it would be an interesting, just a little bit of a different voice would bring to the table. I think anyone on here can certainly fill those roles, and it's a short time frame, but I'm interested myself to do it.
Yeah, and Glenn, I'm not interested in the chair, just so I'm clear on that.
Right, now, I would obviously defer to you, John.
But thank you, and, vice chair, that, I think there is enough bandwidth for me if that role was available to take that on. My wife reminded me that, tomorrow is like the first day I'm actually taking the day off, probably since February. So, so bandwidth is tight, but, for that role, kind of to Amy's point, I would like to, kind of get into that bit of a rotation to see, from a different perspective.
Sure.
Karen, any interest?
No.
That was quick.
I did it.
Well, it's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So yeah, I mean, I did my time, and I agree that it does give you a completely different perspective than when you're a sitting member.
Right.
And so it is important, and the relationship to everything we do is really heightened. And then there's roles that just exist beyond what the rest of us do in terms of, speaking to other committees, speaking to the press, speaking to legal counsel, you know what I mean?
Right.
Things like that. That I think you grow, it's beneficial, you learn a lot, but it's also not really something I want to do again. If that makes sense.
No, I totally
Perfect sense.
just stepping up.
Done growing. I don't mean to be flip about it, but
No, it's definitely, I get that.
Yeah.
It's like,
And it's just funny because I'm just so used to you not being able to do it. Just, you know what I mean?
I know,
Being
well,
so
'cause
busy.
I've done so many other things, and now I just feel like, it's the right time. I feel like I have so much experience in this role of sort of assisting all the time that I am capable of doing the whole job, and especially now that the school building has passed and we're through the permitting and all sort of all the major hurdles. So it's really just literally building it at this point. So I feel like this is a great time. Like I have this sort of like this window that my obligations are sort of shifting a
So
little
all
bit.
those are there's less meetings, there's less.
Yeah, I mean, there's still, right now we have monthly, but there might be more just depending on what we have to vote on and things, but it's sort of like out of my hands, like the agendas and a lot of the stuff is being done by our OPM now, so it's more like I'm hosting the party than doing any heavy lifting for it right now, so I just feel like this was like, I mean, I know last time we talked as a group, Amy was like, if you guys don't have the bandwidth, I could do it again. And I was just like, you know what, I do have the bandwidth. I work out of my home and I have the flexibility to do the meetings during the days. And I mean, I've been doing so much for so long that it's like, this is sort of almost second nature to do this kind of stuff. So I feel comfortable, but also, you know, I respect that other people want to step up and, we have, I get all that, so.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go with what the group wants. Not even without any reservations, but I know Amy has done such a great job, and she's been in this role far too long, if you ask her, I'm sure.
Well, one of the things that I said as I talked to John ages ago was that, you know, I think it's important to remember that everybody who does this job does it differently and with different time amounts. And I think that it's important, especially for people who are watching, to know that being a chair is not a full-time job. That like all of the leadership in this town, you know, it is, while it's elected, it's volunteer, and that certainly many who have come before me, as well as in all positions in this town, can run by, you know, people who are working full-time and have full lives. So I say that as a stay-at-home mom, being very conscious of the fact that you know, it is a fair amount of work, but that everybody brings their own spin to it, their own take to it, and importantly, we have a very seasoned superintendent. So, you know, I have to tell you, I'm not sure which way to go here. I will say that Glenn or Karen, the idea of sort of giving an opportunity to reshape how you approach the school committee broadly, I feel like there's a real opportunity there, particularly for our two newest members, to jump in. And Suzanne, while I don't, I don't want this to be me speaking against you, but really more for the idea of what does it do for a whole committee to get two people who really haven't had the opportunity to get, you know, really deep into the weeds, that opportunity. Because while you haven't been the chair, you have probably gotten deeper in the weeds than any of us because of your experience on the school building committee and the access that gives you to the superintendent. So I think. Does anybody want to talk?
This has never happened.
Well, it's not, I mean, I don't have any, I mean, I think any of us can do the job. It's not
right,
like,
I hear what you're
I mean,
saying.
I'm pretty sure any of us can do the job. So I know no matter what happens, it's in good hands.
It's going to be fine, right?
It's going to be fine. It's just a matter of just doing the work and partnering and sharing the information like the chair does. And that's just, you know, I think we all can do it. So is what makes it difficult. And to Amy's point, to have a different perspective, I think is great. You know, I mean, I don't disagree with that for sure. I'm not sure. You know, I know Glenn's done it before too. So it's like, you know, I know he's capable of being the chair. So
Right.
we're all.
I mean, I definitely feel like in terms of, you know, having been here and having, I mean, I feel like you've earned it. Do you know what I mean in that respect?
Well, I mean, it just seems like the rotation, but I've but I've skipped it so many times.
I know.
Like, so maybe I haven't because I've been like, no, I don't want to do it yet. Don't want to do it yet. Don't want to do it yet. You know, it just hasn't.
I kind of want to take a step back from the idea of earning it, because I think if schedules had permitted, I think it would be not something necessarily that anybody earns, but that we just rotate through. You know, I think Gargi was great sort of proof of a dynamic that changed because of her stepping into a role and working so closely with the superintendent. So I think because of that, I am leaning towards supporting Glenn.
Thank you, Amy. And again,
I want to say that with deference to you, Suzanne, because I am in awe of the amount of work that you have done and how committed you are to this committee. So I do not want you to see this as a lack of support, but more just an opportunity for our broader team to get richer.
And that's really what I was going to say too, Amy. It's Suzanne, you've done, and what you did to get this school across the finish line is, I mean, personally, I'm indebted to you for that. It's just amazing how the organization and everything you did and your team did to do that. But I agree with Amy. Maybe it's just a little bit of a different voice going forward. I know I'm interested in just learning. Even though I've done this before, is the real nitty-gritty of the day-to-day that I know that Pam does. So, I mean, I'd welcome it, but it's not, one way or another.
So I confess, I've never presided over an issue like this.
I mean, if you guys, it's totally fine. I mean, don't. It's fine. I mean, I'm happy to let Glenn do it. It's not like I'm gonna fight for. It's not like yeah.
But then would you want to stay vice, or would you want to do something else and have John be?
I would.
I'd love to see John take vice. Just because I think that it's all about perspective. John, am I electing you to something that you don't want?
It's fine. I'm done being vice. It's yeah. That's fine. I've done this. How many times have I done it? 3 different times, maybe, with 3 different chair people. Like I've seen the differences, or the communication and what and everything. So I don't need to do it again.
Yeah,
Totally.
and Amy, you're certainly, I mean, I said a few minutes ago, if there was an opportunity here to do it, I'd like to do it. So if there is, then, I'm happy to do it.
Seeing the only neutral party here, Karen, I'm going to ask you to make a motion then.
So you want me to make a motion? For
Well,
Glenn?
what I'm hearing is that Glenn wants this, and Suzanne is graciously stepping aside. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah. You're asking me?
Okay, so then I will make a motion to elect Glenn Pastor as the chair of the school committee and John Giantis as vice chair for the upcoming year.
I will second that.
All right,
Am I allowed to second that?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, then roll call vote. Glenn?
Yeah. That's uncomfortable.
John?
Don't say that now.
Yes.
Equally as
Aaron?
uncomfortable.
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
And I'm a yes as well. So congratulations to our new gavel holder. would you like this to be effective tomorrow?
How about after the next meeting, just so I can chat with you a little bit more about the detail of all that?
Okay.
That's okay with you?
Yeah, that works fine.
Thank you.
That makes sense. I'm just looking at the calendar of when the next meeting is.
Is it
Is it the 25th?
25th?
It is the 25th.
Yeah,
So the first
So-
meeting in September,
right.
you'll be presiding as chair,
Correct.
vice chair. Okay,
Okay,
I'll let
all
Maureen,
right.
I'll let Maureen know that.
Okay, terrific. And Glenn, let's you and I schedule some time.
Absolutely.
All right. Subcommittees.
Do you want to do that in September after the new chair?
I would love to do that in September after the new chair takes it.
Just suggest.
Thank you, Superintendent.
I'm not going to
Okay.
forget that either.
I know you're not. I know you're not.
Okay, so I think, if I'm looking at my notes, that roles for the school committee was the last on my agenda, and then that goes into the next section, reorganization, which is done. So I will then turn this over to subcommittee. Anybody?
I mean, I see SPC meetings update. Our next meeting is the 23rd of August. It will be a Zoom meeting. By then, there is a very strong possibility that Stanley will be down or close to being down.
What was that?
Sorry, that was a mosquito. But so right now it's being, the wattle is up that's supposed to protect the environment around the school, and the fencing is going up. So we hope to have some drone footage done next week. And then pretty soon.
Shout out, Mr. Dillette. Drone footage.
No, it's Hill's doing it.
Wait, I thought
Oh.
Mr. Dillette was doing it.
No, but then we.
Oh, he switched?
That's amazing.
Didn't
Missed
you
that
say-
memo.
Yeah, you're the one that said. Are you kidding me? You're the one that said.
Oh, no, I
don't
thought you guys
do
had
it.
it done. Okay. No, never mind. We better straighten that out then before the building goes down. And we don't have any footage.
A little bit late on that
I
one.
have a little heart attack over there.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway, our OPM, Hill International, has someone that does drone footage and has done it for other projects, so they will be flying the drone for the next couple weeks to show the sort of the evolution of what's happening with the building and the site, so that's kind of exciting. So hopefully that'll be up on the website for people to see, but otherwise, things are running on time, on schedule, on budget.
Just wanted to see if you were listening, Mr. Dillette. Sorry about that.
Aye.
Yeah, all
Remember, it's
good.
still summer.
All good, and I appreciate all the stuff that's been happening. Max Casper, our unbelievable facilities director, has been doing the yeoman's work of attending all these meetings with the site group at Stanley and with the parking and with the Blaney. So it's really taking a whole team, and it's really awesome. But so plugging forward as expected.
Okay. Let's see. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have 9 items tonight. We have our regular session minutes from June 16th. We have a donation to the girls soccer from the girls soccer boosters. From their fundraising. We have a donation from Ilya Kripko to the athletics cross-country team. We have a donation of used Chromebook carts. We have donation from Ingenuity to the robotics team. We have a donation from Clark students to the new elementary school. Maybe the superintendent can give a little color commentary there. We have a donation to the Special Olympics from the Special Olympics for United Track and Field, and a donation from the boosters, the field hockey boosters, for an additional coach. And then last but not least, we have warrant number 2252, warrant 2253, warrant 2255, warrant 2301, and warrant 2303, signifying the new fiscal year. Do I have a motion to approve? Hold on one sec.
Okay.
I'll
Do
make
I have
the
a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so any discussions?
Yes, I do want to shout out to Clark students,
Right.
Katerina and Maja Locke and May Mancini. They held a lemonade stand in the spring, and with the purpose of raising money for the new elementary school, and they raised $33.64 and brought it to the superintendent's office as a donation to the new school. So a real shout out to our students looking ahead to the new school, and a great big thank you for their work and their thoughtfulness in this donation. The other donation I do want to shout out to is the Chelmsford Public Schools. Used Chromebook carts worth $3,000. It was one of those listserv items that they sent out. Does anybody want them? We grabbed them. So now we have Chromebook carts to house the grades 5 through 8 devices in their homerooms, and that was just one of those collaborations that worked out beautifully. So I want to shout out to them and say thank you as well as all our other donors.
So I will say I appreciate seeing the donations to the soccer team, the field hockey team, and the those two specifically, because they are they're for stipends for coaches. That hasn't always been so transparent in the past. I know that it has been in the athletic department, but it certainly might not have been through school committee and publicly, and I think it's important for people to see that. The donation from Ilya Kripko, I don't know if that falls into the same category or if that's a gift. I don't know if you happen to know that, Superintendent. Sorry, I didn't ask you ahead of time.
Yeah, it doesn't say coaching on that.
It looks like it is not just, because this is a big gift of $3,000. I'm not sure if any of you remember, but Anton Kripko came before us, I believe it was last winter, and he is a cross-country athlete who, if I recall, his coaches said was among the best they've ever coached. So
It looks to me like it isn't for a coach, but more so it goes into the revolving account and dedicated to the cross-country team in athletics. So it doesn't look like it's a position. It is specifically for the cross-country team, and that is incredibly generous.
Yeah, it's a very generous gift.
I'm sort of curious why we're seeing stipends for two women's teams, and we're not seeing a comparable stipend for any of the boys soccer team, for example. And I wonder, are they going short a coach, or did we have to pay for a coach? I
think that's a great question, Suzanne.
I'm just kind of curious, because I know that I know in the past, I know boosters have helped fund the assistant coach, or a goalie coach or something else, but I'm just kind of curious why.
Well, I have to say, I'm very curious too, and I think this is something that I want to have the athletic director talk to us about, because, obviously for parity. Because, we do know that's a lot of what the boosters do. And this is one of those things that, every once in a while when we do see gifts, it makes me wonder, is it just the wealthy teams, if you will, who get extra? And perhaps, when I think about the setup in Marblehead, where there is a single boosters program for all of Marblehead, that then divvies out the money, across the board. This sort of puts us in the same position that we were in a few years ago, where we had, a parent essentially fund a ski team because they could. And, I think it definitely gets us into, it could put us in a precarious position of, who gets extras versus who gets what's equal as required by Title IX. We had a donor this year who offered to buy jerseys for the basketball team, and they were told no because it wasn't the right thing, because the girls weren't getting any, and I really appreciated that one. The donor then came back and said, well, I'll buy them for the girls as well. And, I think what it came down to, and Kelly explained this to the donor, that if they'd like to donate to the fund that buys new uniforms, that they would go to the next team that is due on the cycle of getting new uniforms, and not particularly for a particular sport because they happen to have bigger donors. So I don't know. I think that this is a big issue that certainly deserves more than just, during a consent agenda.
I agree with both you guys. It's really an interesting.
It is.
It's an interesting question you just brought up, actually.
Right.
One I had never.
Do the other teams have ongoing
Right.
coaches
That's how would.
Can we just remove these two?
Yeah, I agree.
Can we
Okay.
just remove these two
So-
coach things from the consent agenda? And I mean, I'm sure there's a reason they're on here, because the coaches have to be hired sooner than later, probably for the season. So I know there's probably a time. I know Mrs. Wolf is probably under a time thing.
So, Suzanne, if you could make a motion to remove the field hockey,
Yeah, just really.
the cross country, the
No,
field
just
hockey
field hockey and soccer.
and soccer.
But
From the consent
Afia has something to say.
Just really quickly, I think Jesse will kind of see where I'm coming from on this. Coming from a fall sport team that doesn't necessarily have a banner up in that gym. Volleyball doesn't have a banner. Yes, we have not necessarily won anything. So I get the reason why we wouldn't have one, but you kind of look at it as, and this is just because I'm actively kind of figuring this out as a captain, and Jesse knows exactly where I'm coming from. Like, yes, I understand football has won a significant more amount of awards and has more acknowledgments than volleyball has. But on a certain level, it kind of looks at, like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this.
Afia, will you hold that thought for 1 minute?
Yes.
I want to come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to do is I want to take these two pieces off the consent agenda.
Okay.
Approve the consent agenda, and then we're going to come back. So please.
All right, I want to make a motion to remove item B and item
I think it's
H.
H from the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, Glenn,
Yes.
John,
I'm sorry, I'm still not sure why we're removing this.
I just
because
don't-
we're gonna treat them separately.
But are we still going to approve them?
I'm not sure what we're doing here, I'm sorry, Amy.
Okay, so we're voting,
I was asking to remove them so we can treat them separately and maybe postpone them, like when we get more information
So-
from Mrs. Wolf.
So from a procedural standpoint, a consent agenda is for things that essentially don't require a lot of discussion. And these two things are falling outside of what is typical and presenting more discussion than warrants and gifts.
All right, that makes
So-
sense. So that makes sense to me. So you don't
just
have
as
to
a
go-
matter of procedure, what we're doing is we're removing this from a consent agenda and we'll put it on the regular agenda for vote.
All right, thank you for that. So I will be a yes then.
Okay, and then Suzanne,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So the motion passes. The consent agenda now includes all of the above except for B and H. And I'm gonna call a vote for the things that remain on the consent agenda. And so because we took two things off, if I could have a new motion to approve.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so the consent agenda consisting of letters A, C, D, E, F, G, and I. All in favor, roll call vote. Suzanne,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay, so now we're gonna take care of the other two things, which are numbers B and H. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so now we can discuss these two pieces. So I want to come back to you, Afia.
So yeah, it's just basically seeing it from the perspective of, I think with the idea of being fair, there is a way to make it fair for all sports teams, but there's also a way that if one sports team is doing better than another, then they just get more privileges. And I see it from both sides, being on a team that has not done the greatest these past few years, and I see it from a perspective of being, part of the football community in some way. So I see it from both sides, and I just thought it needed to be a bigger discussion, and I thought that Jesse and I just have a little bit more of a direct impact on that, given that we are kind of living through and have lived through the sports season and multiple different seasons of sports, and also going through the motions of it during COVID. So I think we just had a little bit more of a voice on that. So that's just why I wanted to bring it up in another light or meeting.
Superintendent, do you?
You know what I mean?
No.
Like, am
Sorry?
I not wording that correctly?
Sorry, I was just asking, so are you saying it's not equitable because volleyball's not getting what
No.
everyone else is
It
getting,
was
or-
kind of just more of an example, but like I understand the whole idea of one sports team getting more and receiving more because a parent wants to do that versus another. And why are we going, you know what I mean? Like, why limit a team to a certain extent if they are willing to do that? Because then that kind of, in a sense, takes the pressure off of the whole town's back in that sort of way. So that was just kind of my thought process on it was,
Right.
it's going to happen in some way, shape, or form. And Jesse and I can agree that we have seen that happen in some way, shape, or form, that there's been some stuff behind the scenes that not everybody knows about. And that's
Sure.
just kind of where my perspective
So
is.
Afia, I think that what you're saying makes a lot of sense and is right on the money. Superintendent, do you, this sort of reminds me of years ago when I was at Stanley and we raised money to buy iPads for the schools, and Karen will remember this well. The PTAs at Hadley and Clark both said, no, this isn't okay. Why, just because they've raised the money, should they have significantly better technology than our kids? And at the time, it was something that I really fought, and that the superintendent of schools at that point said that's just the way that it is. There will be equity. And so this smacks of that a little bit, in terms of are those teams boosters paying for this because the budget isn't, where the budget might be paying for other things? Or are all of the teams providing stipends for coaches? I don't know.
With
But what I
all
do
due
know-
respect, I think you're going down a rabbit hole here. We don't have the answers from the athletic director, and I am not comfortable answering on behalf of the athletic director. And so if you would like to send an email, or anybody on the committee would like to send an email asking about this, or if you'd like me to ask her to come to the next school committee meeting on the 25th to speak to these and speak to this issue, I'd be happy to do that. But I think we're making assumptions without somebody here to give us explanations. And one thing I will
fully
say
agree.
about Ms. Wolf is anytime I have a question or I hear something, there is a very transparent explanation. So I'd be more than happy to invite her to the next school committee meeting. I will tell her that these have both been bumped to that meeting and ask about other stipends for other sports as well. So she'll be prepared to speak about that.
I mean, I still think we should approve these donations.
My concern is that they're not going to have the staff to.
Well, that's what I mean.
I believe that Ms. Wolf is trying to be more transparent in all of the
Right.
coaching stipends, and therefore they probably will be coming before you. But again, I'm assuming, and I'm not going to speak
No,
for her,
I know.
so-
I mean, I think we should approve these. We're accepting the donation. Whether the athletic department expends them, right, is up to them. So if the athletic department had an issue with this, they could make a different decision. We're just accepting the money in,
Yeah, I mean,
we're accepting the donation.
yeah, I can see all sides. I agree with Suzanne's initial point, though. I think this is something that we as a committee and Superintendent, you as your team should probably look at, because I agree with Suzanne and Amy, is that this is starting maybe to go down a rabbit hole that is a much longer conversation. But I agree with Karen. I don't want to put these sports in a situation that we approve it 14 days from now and now they can't find a coach.
Right.
So I get that, but I would also certainly agree with everyone else that this is something we should look at before the next season starts, and to make sure that there is.
I think we have to ask questions.
Yeah, right,
And until
absolutely.
we have those answers,
Right, exactly.
we can't decide what the next step is.
Right.
And I'm
Okay,
not
so-
qualified to
so-
ask those questions, answer those
So why
questions.
doesn't somebody make a motion?
Okay, so I will move that we accept these two donations with the, if I can, I guess with the caveat that the athletic director does come to our next school committee meeting and make a little bit of a presentation on, the number of coaches for all, especially the fall teams. That's really what we're talking here. Number of student athletes on each team, and,
So I think we need to unravel that and
Okay,
just,
okay.
and
So
the
let me-
motion would be to
Yeah.
approve or not to approve.
Okay, so let's
And the
try to get here.
superintendent will take care of the part B.
Okay, thank you, Amy. So I will make a motion that we accept the two donations, for letter B, the girls soccer, letter H, the field hockey.
Second?
All right, we'll have a roll call vote. Glenn,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
I'm a no. So not that that means anything since majority rules. So motion passes. I look forward to hearing from the
When Miss,
athletic director.
when the athletic director comes, can you ask her, I mean, if you're inviting her to come, can we just find out what the policy is for, I mean, I know the budget pays for head coaches for all the teams, right? And I know the budget, I mean, why is, this is public education, like why are private donations funding positions in the school? And what's our policy on that? Because it feels like it should be coming out of the athletic budget. And other things maybe could be funded by the boosters, like not positions.
No, I agree. I
I'm just
agree.
sort of asking.
wanna get to the
I
bottom
would
of it.
ask that the committee members send me their questions from
Okay.
Mrs. Farley, Ms. Wolf before she comes before you. I'm not going to be able to take all these down, and I want to make sure that your questions are answered.
So, Superintendent, I agree with you. We will follow up, sending you some direct questions so that she's not surprised. But I don't want to shut down the conversation now, since this is, since we can have this publicly.
It's not on the agenda, though.
No,
We just put it on the agenda. We moved it
yeah,
off
we
the consent
just,
agenda
we
to the
just
regular.
moved it off the consent agenda onto the regular agenda. So, I do want to agree with the superintendent that whenever I've had questions for Ms. Wolf, that she has always gotten back to me and has made me aware of things that I hadn't thought about. So I want to approach this with that in mind. I also am really appreciative that this is coming before us at all, because in the past it has not always. So I think the transparency of it is good, because it's really bringing up a good and important conversation. And Suzanne, to your point, what is our policy? Because we have talked about it broadly over the years, and particularly during budget season, when we say, okay, as we look at our budget, what is our plan? Is our goal that we fund all of athletics, or is our goal that we fund 50% of athletics and that the user fees cover the rest? Obviously, we have user fees. Obviously, the athletic director has gone through a process to evaluate those. She and her team came before us, oh gosh, I think it must be about 3 years ago now, to talk about, a very exhaustive process of how they came up with what their goals are. So, I think just seeing this begs the question again. And I don't know if there's anything else that people want to sort of talk about now, just toss out there so that we can figure out, yes, is this going to be what the superintendent talks to her about and asks her to bring before us?
Well, Amy, you brought up a really interesting point is, should the discussion be that the booster money go into one kind of large fund that, if Team A needs uniforms, they're next up, they would be able to get uniforms out of this booster money. And I mean, that's something we should probably all discuss, and the superintendent and your team, obviously, because that would certainly make everything a little bit more equitable. But I'm looking forward to hearing what the athletic director has to say.
Well, just to summarize, you're going to send your questions
Right.
so that she can come prepared with all of her answers
Right.
and the data. That would be great. We had
Yes.
the same discussion 3-4 years ago,
I
and we
feel
never got
like-
anywhere. And what is the percentage? The athletic revolving account does not cover athletics. The operating budget is supporting part of the athletics. The boosters put in money. Should we have one boosters program the same way Marblehead does? I feel like this is the same conversation. Let's revisit it and find out where we're at with this. It's an
Perfect.
important conversation, but I'm not comfortable having it without the athletic department here.
Right.
I can understand.
No, superintendent, that makes absolute sense, and I think that when I am asking people to sort of share any thoughts or ideas here, this isn't about, there are no decisions that can be made, and no decision should be made, but really more just discussion around the thoughts that people have about this, so that everybody's better informed. We want your staff, I have confidence that there is rationale behind everything. I think it does become a question about what's our policy. And do we need to evolve? So, just putting it out there. Anybody else? Okay. Hearing nothing, I am going to, I'm not sure if there is anybody even in the audience to ask for public comment, but if there is.
Katie Cirilli has her hand up.
Oh,
Katie,
good.
You're allowed to talk.
Oh, good.
Hi,
Katie,
I won't keep you long.
If you can just identify yourself, that'd be great.
Yep, Katie Cirilli, mother of an incoming kindergartner at Hadley and incoming second grader at Blaney Street. One quick question and one request. My one question is, will there be a bus monitor on the bus?
Yes, to my knowledge, yes, but I will find out definitively for you.
Okay, and then the second thing is, when you're Sunday, about the stops, the routes, and the times, could you possibly email that to the families? If we got the letter about the bus through snail mail, and just in an effort to prepare our children, getting something via email would be quicker than snail mail.
Sure.
Thank you.
Superintendent, did that have anything to do with the fact that Aspen was not yet updated?
Yes, it was not rolled
Yeah.
over.
So because they're kindergartners, aren't officially in the system yet?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, all in favor, Karen,
Yes.
Suzanne,
Yes.
Glenn,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and I am a yes. It is 9:17 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.